Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be making an outfit inspired by Rapunzel and Princess Leia for Star Wars night. So this year I'm actually going to Star Wars night twice, which was mostly an accident. It had to do with ticket purchasing, but it's gonna work out in the end because now I get to do two awesome looks, so I'm very excited about this. One of them is going to be Ariel as a Jedi, and the other one is going to be a mashup between Rapunzel and Princess Leia. So I thought it might be fun to share how I make this cosplay, and because I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but we're gonna find out together. I had this idea and I just thought it would be so cool to do like Princess Leia's white dress, but as Rapunzel, because you know, Leia has two giant buns and Rapunzel has a lot of hair and braids. So I thought it would be so cool to make like light up golden hair buns that could be like Rapunzel's hair. Also, because whenever there's like an after dark event, it's really fun to have things that light up as parts of your costume. And so I feel like it would be awesome to have light up hair. So in order to do this, since I'm kind of doing everything last minute, guilty as charged, I just decided to order a Princess Leia costume. And I went through so many looking at reviews and stuff, and some of them looked like it was bad. So I ended up ordering one that was a little expensive. It was like $90 on Amazon. And you know, if I had more time, I probably would have just tried to actually make this dress with fabric from the fabric store or thrift something, but I just didn't have enough time. So this is the method I had to go with. And I knew because it was white, hopefully it was gonna pick up color well, and we were just gonna dye it with red dye. Okay, so here is what the costume looks like on. I'll show you the full body image right here. And I honestly think the fit is really good. I'm kind of surprised. And the material feels pretty comfortable, even though, again, cheap. But I don't think it's actually too see-through. Like, it's a little see-through, but I think especially once we add the color on top, it's gonna be fine. The belt itself is very cheap. It's a very, very weird material. Like, I don't know, it feels very, it's not like it's plasticky, but it feels like styrofoam maybe. I don't know, it's quite strange. The pieces feel a little bit better. These are definitely foam. Oh, not it peeling off. Literally peeling off. Okay. Well, that's okay because we're going to trade out these pieces for little foam suns. I'm either going to use this as a pattern for making my own belt out of foam, or I'm just going to spray paint it gold and hope that it kind of like, I honestly think even though it feels weird, I think it looks okay. So I think once we add the accoutrements to it, it'll look really nice. And then this, obviously, we're going to dye different colors. So I've kind of got this pinkish, purpley color, mostly purple, but a little pink type in there. And I'm gonna add probably a little extra pink just to make it very like, Rapunzel is a very specific color to her dress. So I wanna make sure that we kind of capture that as well as possible. And then yeah, I think the belt's gonna be gold, but it could also be pink with like gold suns. To be determined. That might look better. We'll figure that out when we come to that. Wait, I have to show you the wig that it came with. Hold on. Okay, I'm just gonna put it on without a wig cap because I'm not entirely sure where it is, but I saw so many videos of this that I thought it looked so funny. Oh God. Oh my God, this is like made for a dog. What do you think, Lo?
It's so tiny.
It's so tiny. It's not gonna fit over my head. Oh, there it is.
Work.
Honestly, once you put the hood up, it's a little better because it hides it. Okay, let's get this project started, shall we? Let's transform this situation. Our first step is going to be to remove these little foam squares because we will be replacing these with Tangled inspired suns. This was way more difficult than I thought it would be. I literally had to pry these off with scissors. I'm sure there was a better way to do this, but I did not figure it out. And once I did that, they literally peeled right off. They were barely hot glued on there, which was like, man, this was an expensive costume for this to be so cheaply made. Okay, for this fabric, I'm going to use synthetic dye. The synthetic dye definitely doesn't have as many colors, but it's perfect for like polyester. So we're going to be mixing the kind of hot pink with the dark purple and try to find like a pinkish purple in the middle. I think what I'm going to try to do is dye the belt first. So I'm going to start off with just a teensy bit of the pink in there, dye the belt, try to make it like a nice light pink. The less amount of time you do, the lighter the color is going to be. And then we'll mix them together and try to do the whole piece of fabric. So we're gonna give it a whirl. So the first thing I added in here is called the Rit Color Stay Dye Fixative. This is great to use when you're really dyeing anything and you want the color to stay on as well as possible, because sometimes that can be a little bit difficult to figure out. So I went ahead and put just first off our fabric in there just to make sure it had that coat. It says 30 minutes, I usually do 10 minutes. Next I tried to dye this belt, but unfortunately for me, it was not really working. So I gave up on that, and we added in just the smallest amount of purple. It looks like this color is deep, there's a lot of pink and purple in there, but really I put just a few drops. I'm testing it with a paper towel. If you have more pieces of the fabric that you're using, that is what you should actually be testing it with, but when I don't have more of a fabric, I just use a paper towel and, hope for the best. But it seemed to be about the right shade. So I went ahead, put all of this in, and very important to always be mixing it constantly. It's such a pain in the rear end, but trust me, it is worth it. Otherwise, you're gonna get weird splotchy parts. And I thought the color looked absolutely perfect. So we're gonna pour that out and hang it up outside to dry. Let's see what the color result was. Okay, I hung it up to dry, and I think it's the absolute perfect shade of purple. It looks amazing. Let's go ahead and work a bit on our belt. I just went ahead and printed out Rapunzel's sun design because we're gonna do this on our belt. So I'm just gonna cut this out, and then we're gonna use it as a stencil to make it out of foam for all the different little ribbons on the belt. So our first step was just to cut out the sun, so you could really do this with any design. And I'm just gonna be transferring this design right onto my foam. So I'm using Eva foam. I think it's about a 4 millimeter. It's not too thick because I didn't want it to be too heavy there on the belt. So I just rolled some that I had used for cutting out a different thing, which we'll see later on. And I'm placing the sun on there. It's easiest to trace it, and then I'm gonna use an X-Acto knife. I know that there are other knives that are more specific for foam cutting that might work a little bit better. I just have a general craft one, which is what I used. And this was relatively simple, I'd say. This is definitely a difficult design to be one to be cutting out because there's just so many waves to it. So I might invest in the future in something a little bit nicer for cutting out craft foam. And then I went ahead for any of the little nicks. I used this quick seal, which I've never worked with before. I'm still very much a virgin when it comes to using foam, so I used it. I don't know if I necessarily made it better or worse, but I went for it, and I ended up with a bunch of these little sun designs. So this was the only color that they had at the craft store that was vaguely light pink. It's Matte Wild Rose. I don't know, I wish it was a little bit pinkier, but I did buy a backup, just regular paint in case I need to go over it. But we're gonna go ahead and spray the belt because, as we know, it did not take any color whatsoever from the normal dye. So let's do that really quick. All right, welcome to the spray painting portion of this video. First thing I did was the belt in this pink color. It actually ended up being a nice tone, though at first I was definitely worried that it was not gonna be the right color for a Rapunzel look, but the spray paint worked great because this material was basically plastic at the end of the day. Nothing else was really gonna work on it. Next, I'm spray painting the suns, and I'm also spray painting those little circles that were on the belt as well, the metal pieces. So I'm first going in with a black spray paint just to do kind of more of a base color, and then we're coating them in gold. So I'm using the Color Max. This is one of my favorites. It has a really nice shine, and it just makes things look super metallic-y. And I feel like the end result of this was really cute. It was definitely the right tone to go for. And yeah, I think this belt really was the highlight of this look. It really made it something special, so success. Next, we are diving into this wig. Oh my lord, this wig gave me so many problems, but your girl did her best. So I first tried to style the bangs. That wasn't really working. I texted my friend Amber. She's like, you need to curl them. So I then tried to curl them, and that's what you're seeing here. So you'll see the bangs at different intervals of things I was doing on the hair. And then my second step was to go ahead and brush out this wig. It was definitely a cheaper wig. I did not use a lace front, but I just thought the color was right for Rapunzel, and I didn't really want to have to order a whole new wig for this project because I already spent so much money on it. So the first thing I'm doing here is I'm just kind of doing a braid around the side, because my concept is to do 2 giant buns, but long, like Rapunzel's hair. So the first step is to take this base wig and kind of collect all the hair that's currently down and make it into some little buns and just kind of braid it around the side. So if you ever look at like a Rapunzel wig, which cannot be comparable to a real one that's done by someone who actually knows what they're doing, they always do the side braids on the base of the head, and then you connect the giant braid, which is usually connected with like snaps or something like that, which that I didn't have, and that probably would have made things a little bit easier for me as well. But here I'm just going all the way down with the braid, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin it up in the back with a couple of bobby pins. I had a couple of stray hairs. Because this wig is, you know, synthetic and it's not super expensive, you need to make sure to cover any of like the kind of clear wigginess of it, to say it plainly, because sometimes when you're taking hair and putting it up, you'll see all the wig cap underneath. So I just kind of crisscrossed hair a little bit more in the back, pinned it up into 2 little buns on each side, and I had my base pretty much ready to go. Just making sure there's not any stray hairs. Again, this is really super chaotic, and I wasn't too worried because most of this was going to be hidden by the giant buns, so this is me just doing my best. So the only way to curl a synthetic wig is by using steam. So I just took my little handheld steamer and went ahead and steamed these curlers. So this is hopefully gonna give a little bit of curl to these pieces that I'll be able to tease and make a really nice swoop for Rapunzel's bangs. Okay, while we wait for the curls to set, now that I've steamed them, I'm gonna go ahead and start taking some of these whiffs of hair that I got. I basically just bought like things that are supposed to be like braids that you put on like a ponytail off Amazon. So I bought 4 of them. This one has already gotten a little bit messed up. But what I'm basically gonna do is take my little lights that I bought and I'm gonna try to braid the lights into the hair as I'm braiding it. So hopefully once we turn everything on, it'll look like one big light up bun on the side of the head. So let's go ahead and start braiding some of these. We're gonna braid 4 and see if we can fit all 4 on top of the head. I don't know if it's gonna be too heavy for the wig in the end, but we're gonna give it a go. So in order to braid this, I found the easiest thing to do was to put it on top of my water bottle. And you'll see there's all these little individual pieces. So my first step was to make sure I had the lights around them in the most seamless way possible. So what I did was I just fed the lights through the top, and then I wrapped them around each individual little piece of hair that's going to be eventually put into the braid. So there are about 6 different strands here. So I went all the way down. I used about 1 set of lights for each piece. And luckily there were only like 3 big battery packs connected to all these different lights. So I braided them all down and then turned the lights on, and I realized, okay, this was actually going to work. So next step here is we're diving back into these bangs. They probably could have curled a little bit more. And I tell you, I teased these bangs so many times in an attempt to get them tall enough. And again, I'm really like super fresh at wig styling. It's probably my worst skill, unfortunately. So I did basically tease and re-tease this a bajillion times, trying to get the shape exactly as I wanted it. But I do feel like I got the nice wave of her hair. She has a very particular way that her bangs are styled. That's that classic Disney princess. No hair could actually ever look like this in person. So I actually had to trim some pieces. The wig was a little bit long to kind of make it work a little bit better for me. There I am, literally teasing it again. So in the end, I think I teased it probably like 10 different times. After all of that teasing, here we are with our finished result, a big, nice swoop, and we have all the pieces of the wig in place. So I went ahead and sprayed that with my Got To Be Glued just to try to get it to stay and not move, because that was probably going to be the one piece that I wanted to be the most immovable after all that work to get it to this place. And then I just kind of smoothed it out with my little smoothing brush, and then I was ready to go ahead and jump in to adding these big buns on the side. So what I did first was I wrapped that hair tie around the tiny little buns I had made, And then I just went through with these U-clips, and I went ahead and I connected the entirety of that giant braid to the top of the hair. I very quickly realized that this was going to be a very heavy wig, and I was not going to be able to fit 2 strands on top. So this is still just the first one. This is a giant bun. There was no way that I was going to add a whole nother, giant braid like that. I don't think it would look good, and I don't think it would even balance on my head. It was a little bit difficult to make sure all the lights were going to stay in there. This did turn out to be a little bit of an issue later on in the night as well, when I had to reach in and turn them all on. So that was a little problematic, but for the most part, I felt like this looked great. And then what I did with the second braid is I just went ahead and I added it like it was hanging down. And I really love how that looked. So next, adding flowers. I didn't really get good footage of this, but I cut out a bunch of little squares of foam, a cheap foam, and then I hot glued these flowers onto that into clips. And this worked okay for the top. I definitely would have done it with a different type of hair clip because the U-clips did give me problems throughout the night. They were trying to fall out of my head literally the entire time, and that was so frustrating. So I probably would have done it on smaller bobby pins. So for next time, absolutely, that is what I will do, and hopefully that will help a girl out. To do the flowers on the bottom, I literally had to lay this on the floor because there just was not enough room on the table. And at this point, I was probably, I was a couple hours from having to go down to Disneyland for my first night of Star Wars night. So I just started hot gluing them. I was like, I don't have time to put them on anything else. And this worked really well for me. Something that I would do next time is I would have put a net on top of these braids, which is what you should do, like a blonde net. But again, I was not thinking about that when I ordered everything, and I was like, I just need to do this as quickly as possible because I have no more time. So you can see the battery packs that make the braid light up on the back. I just moved them all to the back of the hair, and then I just covered them with flowers, and that was great, and it was really super well hidden. So I definitely would do that again if I was letting hair up that way. Next time, I'd like to try a more fiber optic approach so it looks more like the entirety of the hair is glowing as opposed to little lights, but that's for, next time we make a Rapunzel wig. So our last step here is just we're gonna connect these pieces that we made before. I'm just using hot glue, LOL, exactly what the company did as well. And I'm putting our little metal piece on the center of the sun, and then I'm hot gluing those suns onto the belt. Now this worked pretty well, except I did lose one sun at one point during the night. So I think what I would have done is kind of made a stronger connector like it originally had. But again, hindsight is 2020, but for the most part, this was very successful. I just, got it caught in my purse and that ripped it off really intensely. So these are all the pieces. The belt is looking great. Let's see how this look turned out, shall we?
What are all these fools standing around for?
Are you going to make sure to keep Pascal out of trouble?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Your hair
Love
is
the satchel, by the way. It's very stylish.
Thank you.
There we go.
Absolutely beautiful sunshine.
And that was the finished design. We had the best time at Star Wars night. My feet wanted to die, mostly because I had just been there on Tuesday and I was pretty much in excruciating pain once it hit midnight. But it was okay because it was definitely still worth it. But I really love how this outfit turned out. I thought it was really clear. Everyone seemed to understand it and enjoy it, and that made me really happy. I love doing like mashup Disney character stuff. I don't know, there's something about a mashup that's just so, mwah, it's delicious, I love it. I'm definitely the queen of, making things as easily as possible, and where there's a hot glue gun, there is a way, and I feel like that's very much what this outfit was. But because of that, I think it's something that anybody could really do. It wasn't on the level of difficulty that some of the other projects I've done are. Definitely I'd say the wig was the most difficult, but I'm pretty proud with how it looked in pictures and stuff. Like I think it really read, and hopefully I'll just continue to get better at wig styling when I'm forced to do it. That is all for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!